Hey everyone, I'm Stasha. I'm product manager at Quickbase for a bit more than 5 years, and I'm with pipelines for more than 9 years now. So today, together with Venci, we'll tell you more on what's cooking on the workflow automation and integration space in Quickbase. I'm very happy and excited to be here because over the past 2 years, it was a bit quiet on the customer-facing deliverables on pipelines. We've dedicated significant efforts to solidify, to modernize the foundation of the platform. But now it all becomes tangible. We committed ourselves to make workflow automations and integrations more reliable and secure, to enhance the performance, to improve the overall execution of a pipeline, and the perception of a unified Quickbase platform to deliver an integrated and dependable product experience. I'm pretty confident that as we walk through this, you'll find yourself nodding along, thinking, yeah, that makes sense. Of course, they should do it. It was worth the wait. So you recognize it, it's all relatable. Hopefully, you're as pumped about it as we are. Please share your thoughts, ideas, feedback, complaints if there are any in the chat, or maybe we did something right. Drop your questions in the Q&A section. We have a live Q&A session at the end. So we'll try to answer your questions with Venci as best as we can today. But I promise we go through all of them eventually and respond in one way or another. Get your feedback. Please use the feedback form in our platform. It's extremely useful to us. It helps us navigate in a universe of possible bugs, problems to solve, and it helps us prioritize. So anytime something comes up, just submit your feedback or upvote if there is an existing one. Today, we're talking about performance, visibility, and connecting to more systems. Pipelines will better support Quickbase workflows, ensure a smooth transition in the light of the upcoming end of support for webhooks, actions, and automations in June 2025. Pipelines will be easier to collaborate on and offer a new way to connect to third-party services. What are the 3 takeaways we want to stick with you after today's session? First, we're unlocking more use cases with a more flexible and secure generic channel. We're making pipelines faster, more efficient, and reliable. We're enabling collaboration and improved governance over pipelines. Just to make sure we don't go to jail, whatever you see and hear today, it's in the works. We are really hopeful. We aspire and we plan together, but everything is a matter of change, and just stay tuned and look at our release notes. Today, we'll tell you about our new connector, the HTTP channel. Then we go into more details about the performance improvements. We are introducing a new, much faster way to start pipelines and a new trigger that will react on bulk events. The last and maybe most intriguing is a step towards better collaboration, increasing pipelines visibility, improving troubleshooting experience, and enabling teamwork. On the connectivity side, the HTTP channel, that's the name. It's a new next generation pipelines channel designed to provide generic connectivity to virtually any service or system that exposes an API. This versatile connector will unlock use cases for which currently there is no built-in pipelines channel, or extend and compensate for the existing channel's limitations. It will combine the functionalities, cover the use cases, but also improve and extend the current JSON handler, CSV handler, and the webhooks channels. It is much better structured and coherent, with aspirations to take the burden off of the end user, the responsibility of designing, practically coding the code to the remote system. It will be more secure, more reliable in the execution, and intuitive and simple to use. Currently, there is a set of channels providing in one way or another such generic connectivity. The JSON channel, CSV channel, and a webhook channel. They were built long time ago, fitting specific customer needs, solving an isolated problem, upgraded over the years. Still, they are not exhaustive for all use cases. Specific use cases require more flexibility, and the current channels do not provide it. They are taxing in terms of adoption, difficult to set up, not easy to configure, to modify. They are not consistent or flexible in error handling. The connections that are built with them cannot be reused among other workflows in other pipelines. And the credentials are visible as entered in plain text. Here you see, I can't even fit the whole step on one screen. So too many concepts, too many fields, too many explanations on how to properly use them. That means something's not right. With the new channel, let me show you how it looks. We're covering connectivity to all services and systems that expose an HTTP API, compensating for the lack of a native channel or the limitations of the existing ones. We design it so it's more easy and simple to use from the end users. With priority, secure handling of credentials. The existing channels do not obstruct the authentication flow. The credentials are entered and displayed as regular field inputs, like plain text, in the steps of the pipeline. They don't have a concept for handling step inputs with sensitive content. This poses a security risk, and we are addressing it with utmost priority. So we are introducing the concept of accounts in this channel similarly to the rest of the other native connectors. There is an intuitive authentication flow that will simplify connectivity to the variety of services. The approach leverages the existing platform capability and naturally applies the secure storage and encryption of the credentials to the new HTTP channel. To strengthen security further, we bind the provided credentials and the selected authentication method together with the specified base URL. The Connect dialog allows you to provide a set of HTTP headers and their values. These become part of the connected channel account and are sent with every request which is made via the channel. If you want to interact with different systems, you should connect the channel multiple times and provide specific details, base URL, authentication, and credentials. The authentication flow, we support some preset mechanisms, as you can see on the right. At least we'll start with this for the initial version. All aspects of the authentication flow are covered by the channel. The user is guided to provide the mandatory fields and parameters. We've identified the flexible error handling capability of it's one of the first things that this channel should provide. So the user now can select if they want to handle errors themselves entirely, outsource to the standard built-in mechanisms, or just choose specific error codes to treat separately and custom. Bit future looking, but the aspirations are to add capabilities that manage larger payloads, as well as file transfers, upload and download. The initial release should come by the end of the year. To recap on the HTTP channel, we abstract, we make it easy and simple as possible for the user to benefit for the full-blown integration to a third-party system, to leverage the full set of capabilities of the remote API. We de-risk it, we take off from the end user as much as possible of the complexities and risks when interacting with the HTTP REST APIs. We introduce the concept of accounts and the guided authentication flow. Of course, the flexible error handling and future-looking, better payload management and file handling. This channel is designed to internalize as much as possible of the risks and the complexities. It's a flexible alternative to design a workflow each time a built-in connector is missing or there are limitations in the existing ones. Performance. Performance is one of our ongoing commitments. We've made big performance improvements in the past, and here is the new set. It's long-awaited and well-deserved. This set of enhancements will specifically excite or bring relief to those who have set and are actively using the current Quickbase webhooks, actions, and automation services. We announced that these services are about to get their end of support by June 2025. So we want to make sure that before this happens, pipelines will cover the use cases reliably. Performance expectations are met, there's feature priority, and we enable a smooth transition to pipelines. So let's go see what's in the works. Speed up trigger times. Single record operations, like replicating, syncing, entering data manually, pushing a button. Normally, we expect the result of these actions to be visible on the next screen immediately, especially in a Quickbase context. It is frustrating to wait and to keep in mind that to remember that there is a pipeline that should trigger, run, and finish on the background and reflect the changes. Now we are one step closer to real time. We want at least certain, if not all, pipelines to run optimally. We've analyzed and isolated the use cases where pipelines can trigger up to 22 times quicker. This means the pipeline will start for about and under a second following the original event in Quickbase. That's near real time. We are aiming not only towards speed, but also towards consistency and reliability of execution. Just to be realistic, we know that not all pipelines are created equal. We will honor and treat respectively, we will promote the following specific pipelines. Simple pipelines. Pipelines with low complexity, no intricate logic or iterations, just 2-3 steps at most, a trigger with 2 actions, operating on a single Quickbase record. No conditions, no loop and query steps. These are webhook triggered pipelines that do not generate backlog when executed and have low probability of generating such. What does it mean? It does not accumulate a huge amount of work to get finished. It does not create a long queue of tasks. Another criteria is that these pipelines, they have low throughput. The amount of data in each input is low. It can be processed predictably fast. They have low trigger rate. The incoming changes are sporadic, usually triggered by manual actions in the source system. And again, that wouldn't result in accumulating a large backlog. The fine print, a small disclaimer, and a reminder. This new functionality, the fast track trigger, it is directed towards trigger times, no specific commitments as to the overall pipeline execution, the whole run. This might be dependent on many other factors, like there could be technical difficulties, system availability, rate limits, temporary spike of inputs, accumulated backlog of work. So this is only about trigger times. Statistics and the data we collect now show 90%, more than 90% of the pipelines eligible start for below a second. This is about 22 times faster than today. The plan is that this enhancement is available by the end of the year. Follow our release notes to know when your pipelines are off to a better start. The next brand new feature is again a step on the way towards deeper integration with Quickbase, making Quickbase specific use cases run smoothly and fluently, natively on pipelines. Again, it's aiding the transition from webhooks. With this one, we are enhancing the performance and the reliability of pipeline execution for mass changes, like grid table edits, table-to-table imports, the import from CSV functionality. Currently, bulk events trigger multiple pipelines, leading to long execution times or errors. Imagine a use case. We want to send an email, Slack notification, when we have a new item in our store, a new product. So we have a trigger, a new record created in Quickbase, right? But someone comes and uploads a CSV file with 1,000 new items, creating 1,000 new entries in our Quickbase table. What happens? Our pipeline is about to run 1,000 times. And that's scary. As per today, it may not even finish. It may result in too many transient errors and error out altogether. Here comes our new bulk trigger. The bulk trigger will collect all the events that have occurred simultaneously and start a single pipeline. It will consolidate these events, react to the bulk event, but issue a single one that holds information about all the records that changed. The bug trigger should come to life, hopefully, optimistically, by the end of the year, realistically, maybe early next year. Remember our safe harbor here. It's just not just intentions, it's in the works. We're working hard and are committed to have it as soon as possible. But and to double down on this piece of performance, this is surely next year, we plan to have batch operations added to the flow. Let's imagine what happens when this set of bulk records, once we collect them. We have two options. We can go and iterate through each individual record. We can modify it and then pass it further on its way. Or we could get the whole bunch of records and just process them like this, as a set. Take the output of the bulk trigger, take the bundle of records changed, and in a single step, transfer it further. To recap on performance, the set of performance enhancements will ensure faster trigger, more stable, predictable execution times with minimal errors, intuitive designs for Quickbase specific cases for both single record and bulk edits. We want to not only bridge the gaps for users transitioning from webhooks, actions, and automations as these services come close to end of support, but rather be a modern and stable platform for workflow automations and integrations. Collaboration and governance. We know having pipelines existing and operating in isolation in the context of a single user makes it really difficult to manage, to control, to share, to collaborate on, to monitor, to trace, and to understand the impact it has on other parts of the workflow. Now we have new skill unlocked, collaboration and visibility over pipelines. Let's start with some Connection Central enhancements. For an app builder, it's currently almost obscure how pipelines interact with their app. It might be the app owner or any app admin. They're unaware which fields and in what way are being modified by pipelines. This is how Connection Central looks like today for pipelines. And Connection Central is a renowned, well-recognized venue where information related to the app connections is to be found. So this is where we will surface more data about pipelines that interact with the app, pipelines that are given access to read, modify, or write into it. The enhanced version of Connection Central is offering a more clear, holistic overview and displays information about all app-related pipelines. It will provide tools and features that enable teamwork, resolve data conflicts, enhance troubleshooting experience, and similar to Field Usage tab, which if you remember, we delivered earlier this year, adding more detail about each connection unlocks such a great potential. I'm sure you appreciate this. So let's see how it looks like. We have the pipelines type, schedule, trigger, or manual. Pipeline's name with a direct link to the pipeline itself. Whoever has access to the pipeline will be able to directly open it for edit. We have the pipeline owner. It will be clear whom to contact to discuss the setup of a pipeline. We can sort on this. We can see when it was last triggered, when did it last run. We have the pipeline status, on, off, and running. With a reasonable offset, it will be a timely indication of the pipeline status. Hovering over the running status will show the number of running and delayed pipeline instances. Sometimes this could be very insightful as to how long the pipeline will be running for. Then we have the last 24 hours failed and successful runs. Clicking on the link will take us to the activity log for the past 24 hours. We have the channels, the tags, the YAML of the pipeline. Whoever can't access the pipeline itself can download the text representation, the definition of the pipeline. And my favorite one, the resources. In a special side panel, it will show in a while, there is a list of all the fields that are used in the pipeline with indication to which table and which app they belong to. A pipeline can read or modify fields from different apps. So we want to surface all those fields and tables that interact with the pipeline. There is the field name, the label, the field type, in which table, from which app it's being used, and in which steps specifically in the pipeline. We have, of course, the filtering, sorting, and the search on the entries to enable the quick location of the needed information. That's cool, right? I find these pipelines enhancements giving us new levels of freedom and skills, unlocking and unblocking us to focus on what's important. And with that, I give you Venti to expand on collaboration and ways to take informed decisions on managing pipelines and apps.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Stasha. Let me just share my screen. All right. So I'm Venci Tasev, and I've been in Quickbase for more than 3 years now. And I currently oversee governance and pipelines. And I'm really excited to share more on how you can better govern your workflows and integrations. So what Stasha showed us, the connection center, is just the first step towards unlocking a better pipelines collaboration. Those of you who are keeping a close eye on our release notes may have also noticed just a month ago, in September, we released our improved service accounts capability. Service accounts allow you to collaborate securely without needing to share a user login. Forget about password sharing that you've been doing so far. Now, Realm admins can convert any existing user account to a service account. So once they do this, they can provide access to up to 20 individual users that can act on the behalf of the service account. Service accounts have access to the entire platform, and you can use service accounts to build apps, pipelines, even make API calls that use user tokens. Apart from the fact that users cannot log in and authenticate a service account using their credentials, the behavior and the characteristics of a service account does not differ much from a normal user. Everything else is the same. A service account can be added to user groups. Apps can be made a Realm admin or account admin, can be designated as a super user, and so on. So if you want to ensure business continuity and you need a group of users to manage critical pipelines, you should definitely use service accounts. Let me now show you how this can work in the context of pipelines and how pipeline users can benefit from it. So I'm going to play a quick demo, the same demo that some of you may have seen in our previous governance session. So in this specific example, I have already pre-provisioned a service account. And I have provided 2 users with access to that specific service account. So Empower User 1 and Empower Pro User 2. If we go now to the user profile of the first user, we can see the ability to switch to the service account, but at the same time, that user doesn't have a single app and don't have access to pipelines, solutions, or exchange. Pretty much the same for the second user. Has the ability to switch to the service account, but no apps, no access to other Quickbase capabilities. So now what we are going to do is to switch to the service account from that second user. And all of a sudden, I have access to the app that the service account has access to, and I have access to pipelines, exchange, and solutions. And since we are talking about pipelines, if we go to pipelines, we can actually see all the pipelines that this service account has access to. And moreover, we can actually make changes to these pipelines. In our example, it's just one very, very basic pipeline. But as you can see, by impersonating the service account, I can actually open the pipeline, I can see the structure of the pipeline, and I can make changes. Now we're going to repeat that exercise with the second user. We will switch again to the service account. We see the same application. We now again have access to pipelines. And if we go to pipelines, we will be able to see exactly that same pipeline. So actually, this is how service accounts actually enable and unlock collaboration on pipelines, something that wasn't possible before. And finally, we can switch back to the original users. Unfortunately, we still can't do it from the context of pipelines. This is coming soon as an enhancement. That's why you have to go back to your My Apps page in order to switch back to the original user. So it's very simple and intuitive. As you can see, right? So it's just a click of a button. And I also want to share with you some best practices and recommendations that you can read also in our help, but I believe it's important to mention here as well. All users building and managing critical for your organization pipelines should use a service account to enable collaboration, business continuity, and increase security. You won't be anymore terrified what would happen if someone leaves your company or simply someone is sick or absent for a longer period. Now, other teammates that have access to that service account will have seamless access to the pipelines that person is managing. At the same time, you should also limit the number of users assigned to a specific service account. We have a built-in limit of 20 users, but we also recommend to remove any users that no longer need access to the service account. You should also create multiple service accounts for different use cases. For example, managing different sets of pipelines that do a different business logic. Avoid using one service account for all your Quickbase resources. So the key takeaway, service accounts elevate pipelines collaboration to another level. It's finally possible for two or more users to collaborate on making changes and moreover managing and evolving a single pipeline. But that's not all from pipelines governance perspective. I know many of you have raised multiple times their concerns that we do not provide enough tools for visibility and proper governance over pipelines. We started changing this few years ago when we introduced the Realm admin view for pipelines, and when we added the ability to restrict which users can create pipelines. Now we're bringing this onto the next level. I'm sure almost all of the people on this call are using the connected tables feature. Many of you know this feature also as sync. Those of you who are Realm admins are probably also aware that they can connect to another special type of connected tables called admin console connected tables. For many years, we had only 3 tables, and recently we added 3 other tables. And pipelines is actually one of these 3 new tables. Currently, it has 7 fields: the pipeline ID, the user ID, the pipeline name, description, the trigger type, when the pipeline was last triggered, and the state of the pipeline. But pretty soon, we will add to this table many of the new data points from Connection Central that Stasha showed earlier. What we feel would be most valuable, based on what we hear from you, is the information about all the fields, all the tables, and the apps that your pipelines touch. In combination with data points for the channels and the errors for every single pipeline in your realm, you get the ultimate realm level overview of what is happening with all your workflows and integrations. So once this data is in a Quickbase table, you can refresh it every single hour. So having near real-time data will provide you with the ability to create multiple surrounding workflows, like setting up notifications when a new pipeline is created, or a notification if someone has integrated with an external system because you care for your data. You can create various reports, and basically you can slice and dice the data based on your specific needs. Moreover, you can provide other folks like app managers or pipeline owners with access to it. So the new admin table is already available, and everyone who is on business and enterprise plan can utilize the data. If you are Realm admin, you should be able to see this new data source in the connected table dialog box. If not, ping your Realm admin and ask for assistance of setting up this connected table. So that's all from me. I know that you have a lot of questions about all the things we just spoke about. We are very close to our Q&A, and together with Stasha, we'll try to answer as many questions as we can. Of course, up to our best knowledge. However, if you need a deeper dive specifically into service accounts, let's discuss that on Friday during the Pipelines Crew meetup. I will join Sharon Faust, founder of Quickbase Junkie, and the famous Ben Simon for that session. And now, before we kick off the live Q&A, I hope these 3 takeaways would stick with you as an outcome of our session. So first, we're unlocking more use cases with a more flexible and scalable generic channel. At the same time, we're making pipelines faster, more efficient, and more secure. Stasha provided an overview of the faster pipeline triggering, bulk trigger step, as well as the secure flow of the new HTTP channel. And last but not least, we are enabling collaboration and improved governance over pipelines with the new data points in Connection Central, through service accounts, and the new admin console connected tables. And one final ask. We hope all of you will rate our session at the end of the presentation when prompted on your screen. Tell us how we did and whether you like this session. That's all we wanted to share with Stasha. So let's see what questions you have already submitted. And yeah, Stasha, please go ahead and take the first question.
Okay. Let me see how I navigate it here. One of the questions I saw was about the performance. Let me just try to find it. Performance improvements, and when are they going to go live? I think I mentioned the quick trigger, the fast trigger. It's set to be live this year. It's about the bulk trigger and the batch operations. We are targeting this year, but most probably they'll slip into 2025. Let's find another one. So many questions here, really. Okay.
I can take a few questions, Tasha. I see a few questions also about service accounts as well. But there is a roadmap related question from Bradley. Let me just quickly share that. So are there any plans to increase the pipeline error email notification? Having the pipeline name and a short error description would be a good, huge improvement over the pipeline ID, which we all get now. So as usual, we are not in position to commit to a specific date, but I can reassure you that this is in our short list for the 2025 roadmap. So we're right now midway through our 2025 roadmap process. So we're really going to see whether that will land in the final priority, but we're definitely considering this, and we know that this is a huge pain for you.
I see one for, oh, did I share it? Bulk records. Does it also support bulk record updated or created? Both. All kind of bulk edits should be supported.
Okay. We have a service account question that I wanted to answer. So with the new service account, who is making the change, the service account or the user working through the service account? So I mentioned this in the previous session for governance. So basically, if you go to our audit log, you see that all the changes belong to the service account. But we've added an improvement that actually we have a new column with the session ID information. And we also have a new event for the impersonation of the service account. So if our service account is, let's say, pipeline service account, and if I have access to that service account, and if I'm logging to that service account, we'll generate a new event in our audit trail saying something like Venci Tasev switch to service account, pipeline service account. And that event will also have the session ID connected to it. And then everything else I do on the behalf of the service account will actually appear like the service account did that event. But together with the session ID, you'll be able to connect that these actions are performed by Venci and not by Stasha, for example, that may be doing something in parallel with the service account. This is not a very pipeline-specific question, but I wanted to clarify this. So, Stasha, another question?
I have one for the faster trigger times again. Since only some pipelines are eligible for faster trigger times, will there be a way for us to see if they're eligible or not? So, two things here. first, maybe initially with the first release, it will not be clear. But we plan to make it visible, to make it visible that this pipeline is eligible for the fast trigger. And second, but this is very optimistic, we plan to make it so that all pipelines run really much faster. So it won't be necessary to have eligible and not eligible. But it's on several phases. For now, we just want to make sure that we cover really the use cases for webhooks, actions, automations, and we make it fluently that you build your workflow in Quickbase and pipelines just work on the background very quickly and smoothly.
So good question from Sean on service accounts. Will service users still have access to user tokens and auth via username password? So as I mentioned previously, Sean, service accounts, users won't be able to directly sign in to the service account using the username and the password. So that would happen through that switch option in the user menu as soon as the users have access to that specific service account. However, again, from that user menu, once you impersonate a service account, you would be able to see the tokens for that service account. I hope that this answers your question. If not, you have my email address. Feel free to contact me for more details. And I want to answer another question, Stasha, from Brian on the app IDs and the admin console connected table. So the question is whether we can get the app IDs added as a field to the pipeline admin console. Yes, Brian, that's our goal. So given that right now we are doing this for Connection Central, where you'll be able to see the applications and the pipeline, the applications and the fields and the tables that specific pipelines touch. Our idea is to bring this also to the admin console connected tables on a later stage. So our aspiration is to have not only the app ID, but also all the field details, the table details, and all that kind of stuff. And I think I also saw, can't see it now, there was a question about adding the tags. Stasha, remind me, I think in Connection Central we have the tags, right?
Yeah, we have the tags of the pipeline, the channels that are used, and the YAML.
Yeah, so given that the tags are available in Connection Central, it should be easy for us also to bring that information into the pipelines admin console connected table. Okay, Stasha, you can take the next question.
Yeah, I'm just lost in the sea of questions here. Again, I see the Payoneer email notification for pipelines errors. Yeah. Acknowledge that we do our best to fix these emails.
Let me see. We answered the question about the tags. Yeah, a lot of questions. We answered the question about the IDs. We answered that one question. So John Crossfund commented that pipeline error notifications and error handling have been on the roadmap every single year. Yes, true. But first thing first, John. So we have to kind of fix some foundational stuff before that, right? Make sure pipelines run smoothly, are performant, and then our goal is really to deeper integrate with the core product and improve the experience. So it's on our radar. We're really considering it. So just be patient, and we hope that next year we'll be able to address some bits and pieces of that issue.
I see here one. Nope. Laura, will we have to rebuild these webhooks into pipelines? I guess you'd have to rebuild them. Again, they'll still be running. We're not closing them. We're not retiring them. But if you want them in pipelines, you have to rebuild them in pipelines.
So there is a question. From Adrian, is there any plans to allow for pipeline to have multiple triggers and or parallel stages or tasks? At the moment, this is not on our roadmap, Adrian. We're focused right now on the bulk trigger, and we don't currently consider the ability to have multiple triggers.
But you can, especially with the new designer, you could still just clone it, change the trigger. Not like the solution that you want to hear, but you have the same pipeline, just change the trigger. And
okay, another question related to service accounts, and I'm literally kind of reading the question now. If you convert existing account to service account, current existing workflows like pipelines, notifications, webhooks, and actions that are owned by the account can affect anyway? No, we don't expect any impact. So it's just the act of converting that user as a service account, and you actually provide other users with access to that service account. But everything else that this user already owns or maintains should continue to operate the way it is currently. As I mentioned previously, the only change is that you won't be anymore able to sign in directly using the email and the password. Okay, so that one is answered.
I have one. Harrison Smith, what payload formats will this support? For example, the JSON channel only handles that, but I have a client with an API that outputs in XML. Will this be able to support that without additional transformation? We are now focused on JSON. For the first phase, at least, our focus is on JSON to make it more readable, more easy to parse. Then we see what the reactions are. Again, use our feedback platform, vote, upvote, and we see where we go from there.
So another question from Kim. Can we transfer ownership of a pipeline from a user to a service account? No, we don't have this at the moment natively in the UI, so you can change the ownership of a pipeline. However, what you could do is kind of export and import the YAML with all the small workarounds that you have to do in case there are some credentials and all that kind of stuff in the YAML. So currently that's the way to do it. And there is another question from Cameron on service accounts again. Can service accounts be migrated between users? So I'm not really sure I understand the question. What is meant here by migration between users? So the way it works is that you go as a realm admin or account admin, you go to your admin console, you open the users page in the admin console, and you select a specific user. And once you have the pop over on the right hand side with all the user details and the changes that you can make, we have added a new flip there where you can actually convert an existing user to be a service account. So this is the migration piece. And then underneath that, you have the ability to assign multiple users with access, up to 20 users, as I mentioned previously, with access to that specific service account. But no other migration can be done. Okay, that one is
one that I answered, but I can still share because maybe more people are worried about this. We have some situation with our pullers, and now they are showing that it's pulling a deleted pipeline. It's in the works. It's almost fixed. And soon it will be more clear which puller to which pipeline belongs.
Okay, other questions for service accounts coming. It's so many questions are coming, and by the time I'm reading the question, it goes downwards. So we have John asking about the bulk trigger. So will bulk trigger also allow for a single record, or we will need to build two different pipelines? So the bulk trigger will just, it's kind of a webhook, right? And I think we had that type of question as well, what information the bulk trigger will provide. Our idea is really the webhook to contain information of what records have been updated that you can use subsequently in your pipeline. So whether it's a single record or 5 records or thousands of records, right? So it shouldn't make a difference. Stasha, anything to add to this?
Yeah, no, that's about it. It will differ the way they're executed. The speed will be probably different the way they're parallelized or not. But yeah, it shouldn't matter how many are there.
Okay. Another service account question. So if I have two service accounts and I was mapped into two service accounts, how can I shift to those specific service accounts? So no matter whether you have access to 1, 2, 3, 5, or 10 service accounts, you'll be able to switch to these service accounts from your user menu. So as soon as you have access to those service accounts, you have the ability, you see those service accounts in the drop-down user menu on the right-hand side of your screen. And from there, you'll be able to switch to different service accounts. But if you are already impersonating service account 1, let's say, you won't be able directly to switch to service account 2. You have to switch back to your original user profile. And from there, you have to switch to service account 2. Okay, I think we answered that question. Stasha, anything you selected from all the questions we have?
I'm just browsing through them.
Okay, sharing another in the meanwhile, another question about service accounts. So quick question about service accounts and SSO. If multiple people are using, what is your stance on two-step verification? I'm not very sure I understand the question here. It's important to clarify that the only way, as I mentioned previously, to directly sign into the service account is through SAML and the token exchange capability that we released, I think, probably a few months ago. So that would be the way to log into the service account. Depends on what type is your two-step verification. To be honest, I don't have the right answer for this, but I'm assuming that if you're doing the login through a token exchange process, you won't need that second step as verification. Happy to follow up with more details to this question. Okay, we answered that question. We have another service account. Can multiple people be on the same service account at the same time? Yes, that's basically the idea. So as we mentioned, up to 20 people can be designated with access to the service account. And theoretically, at some point, all these 20 people may be impersonating the service account. This one is answered as well. Okay. We have a good question on, again, I guess that's related to service account. How do you handle two people making changes at the same time? So it's not much different from where we've been previously. If you, for example, share your password to someone else and you're using a service account by sharing password, or if you have multiple tabs opened with one and the same login and you're doing parallel changes. So it's the same. Yes, theoretically, there might be some conflicting changes for single resources, but it's the same behavior, right? What would happen if you also have shared passwords? That would be the same if you also have two people doing in parallel changes, for example, to a Quickbase application. So it's absolutely the same behavior. Okay. I hope this isn't a duplicate of the, let's see, another question. Stasha, by the way, do you have a question that you want to answer?
I have one. I'm not sure I want to answer. Do you have clear errors? How do you clear errors in the logs? Currently, you can't clear audit logs errors, and we are not planning to have this. Not at least in the next year. I can share it, but not in the plans for now.
Okay. Multiple service account questions. So one for our attacker. So if service accounts cannot be logged into, do RAM security permissions affect if the passwords expire? I don't think that's the case, exactly because you can't log in to the service account directly, but I have to double check this, right? So my assumption is that's not the case, and password expiration won't impact, and any security policies won't impact the service accounts, because basically you don't have password for the time being. And in reality, if you turn back a service account to be a standard user, the only way to sign in again would be to go through the forgot password flow. So basically, that kind of reconfirms my position that this shouldn't be, service account shouldn't be impacted from this. Because in this period, while a user is considered as a service account, you kind of don't have password. Your password is theoretically expired. Okay.
I have one.
Yeah.
I hope that this isn't a duplicate of the original question. If a pipeline currently uses an HTTP connector, we will need to rebuild it using the new connector. We are not deprecating sunsetting any of the existing channels. The webhooks channel, the JSON handler, and the CSV handler, they stay, they have their purpose, and we're not sunsetting them. It's just a new one, more flexible and more secure. So if you want to use it, just please do. But no, you don't have to rebuild anything if you don't want to.
Okay, we have one question that I'm going to read. In an instance where a company has dozens of accounts that exist, simply, I'm reading slowly because I also want to understand the question, simply to be a sender of notifications and outline a reply to email, accounts which in some cases have not been logged into by humans. Might there be a flavor of service account that does not use up a page that could account for this type of use cases? Okay, this is a very long question, but I think the answer is very short. It's gonna be a paid seat, because as I mentioned, the way it works is you need to have an existing user to convert that user to a service account. So that actually is gonna be a paid seat for you. Okay. Okay. Of the original question, if a pipeline, let's see that question. I hope this isn't a duplicate of the original.
This one.
Okay, sorry, I was trying to, I was browsing the other questions. Make request step. Okay, Stasha, do we have other questions that we can answer now?
I don't see. Some of them are kind of repeating others. So if we don't answer anything today, again, just use the feedback. We read everything. We try to incorporate it in our plans if possible. So just get to the feedback platform and reach out. It's valuable for us.
Yes, and for sure there are questions, and we see all the questions, obviously, that we deliberately didn't answer because we want to be sure that we're providing you with the right information. So as Tasha mentioned at the beginning, we'll try to follow up on all unanswered questions. So don't feel like you're ignored. We just need some of the questions might be a bit more technical than Stasha and I are. and we admit that. So we need engineering support, and just to make sure we're not misleading you with any vague answers. So we'll try to follow up on all of the questions. So with that said, I think it's time to wrap up. There's still 3 other sessions to go. So you should definitely join the 3 other sessions. We'll talk about fast field, we'll talk about AI, we'll talk about all the usability improvements we are going to do. So don't miss the subsequent sessions. As I mentioned earlier, I'll be happy to discuss live more questions on service accounts on our Friday session with Sharon and Ben Simon. And again, please rate us, tell us how we did. And we were so glad to see so many people on this call. Thank you again.
Yes.
And I really enjoyed the active participation and having so many questions that actually challenged us. So we really appreciate that.
Thank you. Thank you all for joining us. It's really a pleasure. I hope we did something right. We're on the right path. So really thank you for your time, and hope to see you again.